Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me in today's LinkedIn Live event. I am really excited to discuss this really important conversation topic with really three of my favorite influencers and people that have been really doing such an amazing job in the healthcare industry. And today's story will be a success story: financial gains and patient miracles with Dr. Shannon Connor. In today's episode, we are discussing how our special guest, Dr. Shannon Connor, transformed her practice into a thriving business using Dr. Curtis Martin's transformative framework, the same system that has now helped many physicians reclaim their passion for medicine while scaling their profits. We are eager to reveal the basic steps that changed everything for Dr. Connor and other practitioners along the way. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So I would like to introduce, I have obviously Dr. Martin will be joining us today, and Dr. Curtis Martin, Chief Executive Officer with Dr. Martin Coaching, a chiropractic service provider elevating regenerative tissue therapy and chiropractic professionals through education, resources, executive advancement, is also a speaker and mentor. Welcome, Dr. Martin.
Well, thank you, Kevallyn. I really appreciate it. I'm always excited to speak with our group and just really share with everybody some amazing things that we're doing in the alternative healthcare space. So thank you.
It's an honor. Thank you as well. And we are also joined by Renee Marrone, COO with Dr. Curtis Martin Coaching, who is an enthusiastic leader with an unbeatable work ethic and passion for client care and team building. Welcome, Renee.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Can't wait for this conversation.
Excellent. And our featured guest is Dr. Shannon Connor, who has been a client of Dr. Martin Coaching since spring of 2022. Dr. Shannon Connor is an upper cervical chiropractor and Shockwave provider. Welcome, all of you, and let's start at the top and begin this really important conversation.
Perfect.
So, Dr. Martin, would
Yes.
you mind sharing with us how you and Dr. Connor really began this experience together and how you've been able to more or less support each other throughout your journey?
Yeah. Thanks. It's kind of an orthodox way that we met and started coaching. It was interesting stories, so I think that's a good place to start. But also, I just want to thank all of you for being on today. You guys are all women, are so talented. I feel fortunate just to be able to speak to all of you and just share with you some of the things that have really been a joy in my life. And one of the things that is a passion of mine is coaching. And so I was a formal coach for a different program, chiropractically only, for years and years. And when I stopped coaching, it was because of an injury. And I had to take time to kind of get my health back. And while I was searching for an answer to get myself better, I stumbled onto stem cell, the industry, so to speak, and specifically Shockwave. And so when I found Shockwave, I just was blown away at the improvements I felt. And I was thinking, gosh, this got to be a better way to deliver this care, because if I felt the results, I really wanted it to be for everyone, not just for myself. And so as I thought about it more and more, I was like, well, I have to put my formal coaching into a program. And I was like, oh, when is the right time to really start coaching this individually to doctors? And it was, I got back from a mastermind in Cancun, and it was interesting. Dr. Connor had some two close friends that are also previous clients of mine, and they said, well, can you show us what you're doing with Shockwave? And so it was Dr. Gertner, and it wasn't Jonathan, it was
Dr.
Arbeitman. Yeah. And yourself. And so we did a 1 hour kind of orientation about what I'm doing and price pointing and delivering packages of care and some of the results. And Shannon was like, okay, that's great. This is exactly what I needed. And then what did you say to me, Shannon? What at the end of it? And I was just doing it as a favor. And then Shannon goes,
No, I called you up and I'm like, when can I start coaching with you? Because I mean, he had protocols in place. The stem wave therapy is relatively new to this country, and there weren't proper protocols set up. And Dr. Martin was one of the first ones that had the machine in the country, and then I followed quickly thereafter. But it was kind of like the wild, wild west. And you had probably a year before me as far as figuring things out and putting together protocols. But I think part of it was that, but part of also is that you just have a unique skill set to know people. So we were having that conversation, and he was describing me without knowing me, knowing how I thought, and I was like, okay, I need someone who gets me and can help me grow what I already have and take it to the next level. And I called you up and I said, when can I start coaching with you? And you're like, well, I don't have a coaching program yet.
And then he called me. And he's like,
one of your first people. We're gonna Dr. Arbeitman, I think, right? We started with you and away we went. And so but it was kind of fun because I just knew talking to you because I've coached with other people before. And everybody brings something to the table. And I just, what I really liked about Dr. Martin is that he's coached several offices. He has a bigger vision, and I needed someone. I try to be the dumbest person in the room as much as I can. And I knew that he could teach me a lot. So that was like my motivation. And he's very kind.
Very kind.
He's very kind, and he has never steered me wrong. I have to say, in the last 2 years, he's always had the right, whether it's direct me to a person or whatever advice I've needed. Yeah. He's always been right there for me. So I really appreciate that.
There's nothing better than support.
I think I jumped up and down a few times when all of a sudden it's like, you got to fire that person. Like I think I was like trying to be kind a couple times, but I was like, no, that person's got to be let go. No. And I had to tell you a couple times, but anyway, ended up not working out, but you got the right team now. And that's what it is. It's about, knowing what a person needs, what they need to hear, and where their strengths are. And you have so many strengths. It's like picking those strengths up and then just making sure the parts or the invisible parts that you don't even know that are, negative, kind of filling those, because we always want to play to our strengths. And that's what all of us have is you never want to play to your weaknesses and spend all your time on the weaknesses, because then you don't get to fulfill your true purpose. And so I just think, it's only going to get better and better for Dr. Connor. And I'm just thrilled for you. And it's like, so excited about the future and what holds for that, because it's going to be, as big and grand as we can dream of. And that's part about being successful in practice, is never stop dreaming like a little kid, right? Like, what can we do? And I think we share that commonality. What can we do? And we do want to be disruptors, and we do want to change the planet. And we really, really care about helping people. And we're strong when it comes to help people, which you have to be. You have to say, yes, we're going to help you. And no, don't do the wrong thing because it'll hurt you. We have to be strong. And that's what you have too. You have that inner strength that people are looking for. So
that's what patients are looking for in their practitioners. And that's also what staff, like speaking from an admin perspective, are attracted to and want to be following and working alongside. And so I've had the pleasure of working directly with Dr. Connor and her team, and it's been wonderful. Just the mission is clear, and the fact that they're all on the same page. And you've been so patient. I mean, in the beginning, it was a Google Drive and there was no platform, and it was emailing everything and texting and calling. And now we've certainly built much more clear systems for all of our current clients. But you saw the vision and you saw what we could do, and what your staff and your team could do. And that's been such a pleasure. That's one of the first things that we talk about with people when they're talking about adding a modality or a new therapy to their office is, how does your team feel about that? Are they in alignment with your goals and your mission and your vision? And if they're not, maybe your radar is a little off, or maybe they aren't the right team. So even though, Dr. Martin, you're saying that it wasn't kind for you to recommend releasing someone, but technically it is kindness, because it's releasing them to a better future for them, if it's not the right fit for them. So, and you get the right people in the right nook and cranny, and then boom, you're stuck with them for 13 years, like you are me, Dr. Martin.
Well, I think when I hired you, it's like, every once in a while when you're hiring somebody, we have a lot more systems to hire. We use that book, The Who.
Yes.
Really gives us a system on how to hire. And we're big system people now, but every once in a while, you kind of roll the dice and you just get, all of a sudden it's like perfect. And Renee, you're one of those people where I'll just say I rolled the dice and I got lucky. So thank you to my team
Thank
for
you.
coaching me.
Likewise. Well, great team success, great leadership, and great team success, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So,
Well,
so it's awesome. We've got so many people chatting in, which is so fun. Hello to
yeah,
everyone in the comments. I love it.
very neat.
So, Dr. Connor, as we're jumping into this, and we are talking about mission and vision, what is your mindset for success? I know that you've shared with us privately, and I know that, and with our small groups, but I think that everyone in attendance would love to hear. You've got a successful office, but what is your mindset? Because mindset comes before everything.
Well, I think you have to be clear on what your values are and what you're here to do. And I am very clear. In my office, we expect miracles every day. It's not an option, it's just the way it is. And so I'm very resolved when I go in with a new patient that if I don't help you, what can happen is they go down the road of drugs or surgery. And if I don't tell them the truth, no one else will. And so I consider it a failure. I mean, there are absolutely times where people need surgery, but our country is way too drugged and way too quick to cut. And so, but they've been trained up that way. So it's my job to educate people that there is a different way. And I'm very clear about that. And I have no problem telling people the truth. And with that conviction, I think people have a lot of faith in what we can do. So my mindset every day is that miracles happen in this office, and everybody should be a miracle.
Awesome.
So beautiful.
Yeah. So, Dr. Martin, I know that for you both, you had a lot of years to really master your craft here and to
Yeah.
serve and to really create miracle solutions. What are some of the biggest challenges that you both have faced with modality implementation or just in practice in general prior to coaching or practicing?
Yeah, and just before I answer it, I think also echoing too that we expect miracles. That's one thing Dr. Connor and myself expect. And number two of that is that we've trained. And that's one thing that Dr. Connor has been on every single call that I've done, every single training. And it's a commitment. It's not been all of a sudden taking something and go, oh, I got it. I got it. She's constantly trying to get better skills because she knows what's at stake. And that means if she's not able to help them, they're not able to get any help anywhere else. And so it puts a lot of pressure on our own shoulders, kind of self-pressured, but it's worth it because when we do see those miracles and be a witness to those miracles because of our dedication to our skills, it's worth that strain. It just absolutely is. So I always want to give Dr. Connor a great big round of applause because not everybody, and I brag on her all the time, not everyone has the dedication. She's been doing this for a long time. And those decades of experience, she's still questing to get better. And that's very rare. A lot of people become a 4th degree black belt and just say, I'm done. But she wants to become a 6th, a 7th, an 8th degree black belt. And that's what I really admire about her. So I just want to share that with you because as her coach, I work with a lot of healthcare practitioners, and not everyone has that drive and that dedication for clinical excellence. So
It's true.
well done. Well done. So
We never arrive. I just want to say that. I
Love
don't think
that.
we ever arrive. Knowledge is infinite. So there's never a point where you know all the answers. And if you do, you should question yourself, I think, because we can always improve and we can always be better. And we can always look at ourselves and say, what else can I do to help that one person that hasn't had help anywhere else?
Yeah.
Yes. I've got goosebumps. What a privilege to be a patient in an office where that's what the doctor is thinking. That's what the intention is, I mean, how many patients in my own life, I've seen it with myself, with my kids, where you have someone who's so in the box and they're not thinking about how they can serve you and what else to look for. And I love that. I love that digging for more knowledge in general, and then digging for what that patient's body is telling you. Those are the moments. That's why there's miracles, because you're looking for them.
Yeah. And looking outside of traditional, that was one of my questions for Dr. Connor too, is looking outside of traditional chiropractic care. And I think that's what we're really, a lot of commonality is, what's the next thing to really change someone's life? And that's when it comes to the stem cell machine. There's a lot of different things like decompression to help disc. There's so many different ways. And I think the biggest thing is when you've been traditionally trained in chiropractic, like we have for corrective care and family care and wellness, is how do we, and that's my question to you, Dr. Connor, what would you say would probably be the biggest challenge of like implementing a modality? If you had to implement a modality, what would be the biggest challenge?
I think knowing how to work it into your system, and really having protocols set up, because it's a dance. The office is always, that's how I look at the flow of the office, is a dance. And any new hire, I tell them there's no waltzing in this office. We cha-cha-cha all day long. So if you can't cha-cha-cha, you're not going to make it here. And some people can't. See, the thing is, I'm not afraid to work. There's a lot of doctors that like to have everybody else do everything. And I do more than, I mean, my staff does just as much as I do, but we all contribute equally in different ways. And so you can't have one person doing everything. So you have to learn that flow. And when you take a new modality and bring it in, you have to figure out, okay, well, how's the dance going to change now? How do we have to move this way as opposed to this way, or whatever it is? So I think just figuring that out with the schedule and not diminishing patient care in the process, because that's an important thing. So we have to find that balance of that. And that's what I like, with what you came to the table with, Dr. Martin, is that you had protocols, you had more than what we were just taught by the company that supplied the machine. And so I was really able to have that certainty with the machine very quickly, because I wasn't positive, what do I do with this or that? And I mean, you learn over time, but with your program, you don't have to, you have these people who have the experience. It's on the platform. You have the trainings. They're all there. And so my staff watches your trainings just as much as I do, because we all need to be proficient in what we do. So everybody's training always.
Yes. That reminds me, the thing that I always say is that patients deserve expertise, not experimentation. And so that is the truth. You can purchase any kind of equipment to put into your office and it's shiny and new. And some of us get really excited about that, but, and maybe you've got staff that'll be excited too, but really for it to be an add-on to your clinic and like you said, not take away from patient care, it's important for you to have protocols and systems in place. And it's growing pains to try to figure that out on your own. That's, Kevallyn kind of asked that question to both of you a moment ago. And what we experienced was the same thing. What was offered by the distributor of the machine, excellent technology, but not necessarily what was going to make it a profitable option for the office and provide excellent care for the patients. There were people that were seeing results, no doubt, but having to, experiment, not what patients deserve. So I'm really proud to, stand with doctors like you that are committed to that. And your team being involved in the training too, even if it's something that's a call that's more geared towards the practitioners, for them to know what's going on behind a treatment door is important. It's important for accountability, and you can serve each other in that way. I had the pleasure of working in one of our, brick and mortar locations before I worked remotely. And I loved that time and definitely collaborated with the doctor I was with to know, what he was doing. He knew what I was doing. We just trusted each other, and it was beautiful results for the patients. That's what happened, because of that. So it's really awesome. That's the
dance, right?
It is the dance. Yes. I love that. I'm in for the cha-cha, Dr. Shannon.
So, Dr. Connor, I have another question for you
Yeah.
regarding miracles. And Dr. Martin had touched on this a little bit as well. I consider Dr. Martin my miracle in my life. He was not allowed to retire and go on to the coaching because he really did bring that much value to my life, truly. And to ask you the kind of the same question, and you too, Dr. Martin, what has been your favorite miracle story or stories that have entered into your practice?
With Softwave or just in general?
Probably just in general, but I mean, the regenerative therapy, I would say that that's probably so innovative. I'm sure that that was probably a lot more of an effective and efficient miracle story, if possible.
Um, so with yeah, with the Shockwave, one of my favorite, just to see like what happens with that machine is that it is instantaneous usually with the change with people. So sometimes with chiropractic, you can do a great adjustment, but they don't feel much, or they're okay, but it's a gradual process. But with soft wave, what happens is that if they've had chronic pain for 20 years and it's gone, they're that you see them, they go like this because they're looking for the pain, because their brain is almost confused because it's not there anymore. So I've witnessed many people crying because it's such a big change immediately. I had a man who couldn't do a deep knee bend for 20 years, and he's like down and up, down and up, and I have his face and he's just like so
Wow.
confused and he can't even talk. And then one of my favorite stories, actually, I'm a trainer for the company as well. And I was at another doctor's office who had just gotten the machine, and we worked on somebody, and scars are a big deal on people's bodies. And this was a really, really big guy who came in and crying, literally crying in pain. Because he had such low back pain, and he had a little scar like that big from surgery in his low back. And I said, we're going for the scar. And so in his treatment, I watched the scar expand like that big, and he stood up and he had no pain, and he just burst into tears because, here's this really big, probably 350-pound guy that he just he couldn't even believe it. So to see those kinds of miracles is so cool. And to see that, because it released all those adhesions that were right on his spine. And it was really incredible to see. And like my aunt, she couldn't pick up a bag, her purse, for 10 years. She couldn't do this with her hand. And one treatment on her hand, and she was able to bring her fingers together. And she just, the confusion, because I got her on on film as well, because they just can't understand. Like, I haven't been able to do this for all these years, and suddenly I can. So those are always so fun. And I mean, it's just an honor to be a part of that, and you're crying with them, And so I always love that because it's so fun every day. And then you've helped them more than anybody else. And so then they're very much open to what you have to say, because now there's a level of trust there that they didn't have with other people, because you've gotten them results that nobody could. So they're going to be more open to listening to you about eating better, or some nutritional supplementation or detoxification, or whatever you're bringing to the table. So I really appreciate that about the machine, because it does help establish a level of trust with people.
Yeah.
What about you, Dr. Martin? Do you have a couple of miracle stories for us?
I always have a couple miracles. It's funny. That's right, Dr. I never told you, but I always stored my miracles in my pocket. So whenever I treated somebody, I said, well, I got a pretty tough condition, but I got a few miracles in this pocket. So that's where I stored my miracles, was in my pocket, because I always wear chest bands. But I remember the first one, and I think this is the one that probably I was thinking about it. And I had a patient come in, and she was a gymnastic coach, formerly an athlete. She basically was the head coach for this entire gymnastics, mostly for women's gymnastics, had a few potential Olympic athletes, and all that was ready to go. And so she came in, and her big toe didn't work. So as she walked, normal people walk and they toe off, and then it helps them walk. Well, she couldn't because her toe was more or less paralyzed. So it just stood there. So then she turned her foot out like a club and she walked on the side of her foot. She limped every single time, every single step. Couldn't really participate with the kids when she showed them moves to do with the gym and how to land and all that. And I remember the first time I did the mapping session on her, this was years ago. And I remember I did the mapping session on her big toe, on her tib anterior muscle, and just, turned cell signaling everything on. And I remember that I go, okay, step off the table. And she looked down and she goes, oh my goodness. And she started to move her big toe. And then she started to walk. And it was so funny because all she said was, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And there was people all over the clinic because we have a big clinic, 2,000 square feet, doctors and patients. She walked into every room and telling people, and they're like, I'm ready for treatment. She just walked right. I'm Lisa, come back in. And she walked around, look at my written, and she walked. And for the first time it was 10 years. So I think about 10 years is like, a long time. That's what, 3,600 plus days that all of a sudden you couldn't move your toe ever. And all of a sudden one treatment, less than 10 minutes. And all of a sudden energetically and physiologically things turned on. And she could walk out and she didn't cry because she was a tough cookie. But I was I just stood there with my jaw up and go, oh my goodness, that's incredible. And that's some of the miracles that I've seen with Shockwave. And I think I had to share it. I just did a spinal care class virtually on Wednesday. And it was so cool because I always think one of my miracles in my other pocket was I've had couples come in and said, we can't get pregnant. And we've been to IVF and all this stuff and they couldn't have children. And I remember Mike and Ponce, these two couples, younger, married, and they came in, they went through a year of chiropractic care with me, and we corrected all their subluxations, all their nerve interferences, and it turned on all their body function. I remember they came in tears and said, we're pregnant. And I still remember that. It was like the biggest thing for me, early in practice in my first 10 years. And all of a sudden I was on a spinal care class and Megan popped in. She goes, when I was telling that story about things that were really chiropractically meaningful for me, and she goes, can I whisper something to you? And I go, what? She goes, I don't want to interrupt your chiro class. She goes, Evan, which is Ponce's son, is 17 years old, and both the children are in my Concord office under care as teenagers. I was like, give me a minute. And I was like, I had to step away. I was like, but you talk about being meaningful. And in some ways, all the work I've done, everything I've done, all the hard work, all the blood, sweat, and tears, when you hear that, it's all worth it because you can hang that on your hat and say, I did something meaningful for my life and something purposeful. And so for me, that's really close to my heart. And it's just like, when I heard that, I was like, Megan, thanks. And I'm like, I'm trying not to cry because I was trying to finish my care class. And I was like, because you think about that, it's like for that family to have, Thanksgiving and Christmas to be as a family unit, so beautiful when it's supposed to not happen. And we did that. I mean, you think about all the time you spend with your children and your grandchildren and all of a sudden those meaningful moments and good close friends, and all of a sudden you don't get to experience that. So I'm like Dr. Connor. I mean, it's miracles. I expect them. And that's the currency I think Dr. Connor and we live in is miracles. I was going to say hope, but it's gone beyond that because hope is something that we give, but really the expectation is the result. And that expectation is miracle. It truly is.
Yes.
So had to share that. I hope I didn't get everyone all weepy because
I'm a mess. Thanks.
I'm like,
Thanks for that.
Megan worked for me for 16 years and she's like, she was there, or 17 years. She was there when that miracle came into the office.
Yeah.
And she's there to look after, and she's the office manager. She gets to serve those teenagers now that they're under care. And I'm like, so beautiful. So beautiful.
So cool.
Yeah.
And see, these miracles don't happen unless there's tools in place. It's so funny. We always have to toggle between these two things, right? Like, in order to facilitate miracles happening, in order to create space for that to happen, you can't be just some rigmarole mom and pop system. Like, so that's what I'm so inspired to do when I love hearing these stories, because it does reinvigorate why I started my journey as a chiropractic assistant, and all the way up to what we're doing now, and helping coach other CAs and other, financial assistants, things like that. It just really is, it's fantastic to hear the miracles. And so I guess I would say, if there's any other practitioners listening to the call, remember to share those stories with your team, right? Because that is what we need to hear. It can't be all numbers all the time. It can't be all, systems all the time, and it can't be all miracles. Well, it needs to be all miracles all the time, but you know what I mean? You've got to toggle between the two.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen too in our coaching journey, is so many offices where the practitioners are uninspired, lacking motivation. They're not seeing miracles happen. They're not seeing patients' lives changed, and they've lost that sizzle that maybe they had when they first got out of school, or they first got certified in whatever. And they're hoping that by adding a modality, it'll be that reinvigorating thing. And it can be, but if you're struggling through the muck, right, without someone to help guide you, like a Sherpa, Dr. Martin says occasionally, what a struggle. I mean, I can't imagine doing it by myself. So that it's really cool to hear. And I'm so glad that you guys are both getting to share at the same time.
Yeah,
We could be here an hour just talking about miracle stories.
totally. Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's awesome. And I do believe too what you just said, Renee, is it's symbiotic in nature, right? It really is that toggle. Or it could be, if we're going to be treated by either of these two doctors, there needs to be a belief on the patient side as well. And when there's a belief, the teamwork is just unstoppable when there's hope and belief and the expertise and the tools that can make that happen. I really feel it's a team endeavor throughout.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Martin, we have one more question, I believe.
Yeah, I think the question I probably have is that I know that it's not. I think we talked about the miracles, which that always comes first in our program, is the qualitative of what we do, and then the quantitative is always the fun part, because when we're saving lives, it's okay to talk about money in abundance, because when you talk about money in abundance, you can do a lot of great things with it. I always know that with our teams, we've shared a lot of different donations, so a lot of different foundations, and that's what you should do. There's a lot of good we can do with it. So I think, as far as with the growth that Dr. Connor has had, I guess my question is maybe you can experience what that's done for your practice. I know value-wise and worth-wise, the currency has gone way up. But as far as, maybe you can share a little bit more about the value of what you've seen inside the office, and not only with your two new staff members, but just in practice in the whole. Maybe you can just touch on whatever you feel comfortable with. Please just share with where your growth has come from and how far you've grown so far. And I know you're not done, because we're always going to be growing to that next level, and there's just a lot of people to help.
Yeah. So since coaching with you, we just continue to grow. Every year has been better and better, and we just keep having record weeks or record months. And part of it is, you have your systems in place, and you train, and deliver. So that creates a lot of confidence for the patients, because we have certainty. We all have certainty, and everybody has their role, and everybody does it really well here. So I have a really great team in place, and we're all on the same page, and there's good communication with all of us. So that's really important, and everybody has their strengths, and I don't have to worry. We all say the same thing the same way. So that's the consistency of that is really important, because that gives patients confidence. So prior to just a couple of years ago, I didn't ever advertise, and we do advertising, but it's minimal. But I think that have been referral based, cash based. I've been practicing for 30 years. And it just continues to get better. And so for me, it's just fun, it's fun. And I get to really enjoy people. And also, we don't accept everybody, we're really, we have a certain type of patient we want to see, and we're real clear about that. So if someone comes in the door that's not going to fit in that profile, we're going to refer them out. So we don't have to take on everybody, and we don't have to take on, people that really don't want to be well. I would say those are the people that we don't take on for care. So I think it's like a combination of a lot of things, but I think that my certainty continues to improve. And so everybody else's in the office continues to be that way, and having the right technology. We have particular things in place that nobody else really can deliver. So I really like that. I feel like I'm very unique there's other doctors that maybe do decompression. That's what we do that, but decompression, soft wave, and upper cervical, and the type of upper cervical, like we just offer a very unique skill set here. And so they can't get it anywhere else. And I know that, and I'm confident with that. So, but I think for us, is part of the fun of it is to see how many people can we reach and serve every year. And I'm excited that we expand and do better all the time. So that's part of our success. And it without the coaching and without the guidance, because there's so many things that I don't know, that I call Dr. Martin regularly about, and he's always got some kind of advice for me. And then my office manager, Lena, will reach out to Renee a lot and ask her questions. So we have resources in place too. So it's not like we're ever fumbling the ball. If anything comes up, we're on it. We're quick. And so that's been really fun. And it's really been fun to go from a slower dance to the cha-cha-cha, I would say.
Oh, well put. Yeah. And it's been a pleasure for me to be a part of the process, and really it's successful offices. There's a lot of things involved with it, but it's the mindset and what Dr. Connor said. It's like being able to look someone in the eye and say, yes, I can help you, and knowing you have the skills to deliver, and knowing that you reach for that handshake and say, but patients, you have to do your part too. And that takes good communication, good skills, experience, and that's what that she definitely possesses. And that's another reason why success has continued to follow her, because, I always think abundance, when it comes to money, usually typically follows successful treatments. And so if you're successful helping people get well, abundance and monetary money should come your way. And that's what I've seen. And that's just a true blessing to see that occur and continue to occur. Because I remember I asked you one time, Dr. Connor, said, you think you ever want to retire? She goes, no, I'm having too much fun. How many doctors out there are you guys listening to go, has your doctor said that? Or you can tell they just can't wait to get out the door. And some doctors are like, I just love the process, doing the cha-cha-cha, and I don't want to retire. Let's have some fun. And that's rare. So anyway, lots of kudos to Dr. Connor. She's just a bright star. I call it a unicorn down there in Southern California. Because you're not going to find too many Dr. Connors around the United States of America or Canada.
So awesome. Well, I think I'll bring us home. We've got a couple points just to recap. All of the amazing things that these doctors have talked about stem from a few basic points, and we're excited to share those with you, those that you have attended, or if you're watching this replay. So we have a free gift for you. It's a PDF. It's a checklist of, if you're thinking about adding a modality to your office, or maybe you already have, but you're not quite sure how to implement it. And so the main points are the intention. So is your team on board, and what is your intention? Does this modality align with what you're already doing in your office? And clearly for these two, it very much did. The second thing is the bandwidth, right? Dr. Connor talked about this dance. And so do you have the scheduling available? Are the time slots open? Do you need to shift your schedule or cluster book differently? And then next is the training, because if you're not willing to commit like Dr. Connor is, just like she said she can't accept all patients for care, we can't accept all clients for coaching, because it is true, it's we work alongside and partner, just like a client coach and a patient practitioner. It should be symbiotic like that. The next is, do you know what your goals are? Are you just going, hey, something shiny, or do you actually know what you want to achieve? And is your staff in agreement with that? And lastly, and this is what I love, is a good reward. So how do you plan to reward yourself for those miracles that you're seeing, right? Obviously, that is super fulfilling already. But with financial gains and patient successes, there should be some sort of change in your life as well. You're doing great work and you deserve to be rewarded for it. And so does your team. So we're going to share that checklist. It has a little bit more detail in it with you. If you're watching the recording, you can request it by contacting us. If you're here live, we're going to be sending that out to you automatically. And yeah, Kevallyn, do you want to close us out?
Sure. Does anybody have any last words to share with us today about a marvelous Monday motivation, perhaps?
I'm going to say one thing about all of that, especially the coaching, is prepare to deliver. Train and prepare, train and prepare. Because that way, when you do that, it becomes automatic and reflexive, and then it's just a part of who you are. And nothing is really forced, and you don't have all the answers. And so if someone has that skill set that you don't, hire them.
Excellent. Excellent.
Love it.
Well, very good. Dr. Martin, do you have any last thoughts for us?
I agree with Dr. Connor. I think, that was one of my quotes that always resonated from me from a previous mentor, is when preparation meets opportunity equals success. And preparation, you got to put in the work. And then the opportunity, when it's in front of you, you know what to do and when to do it. And then, of course, success is always the patient getting that great miracle that they're supposed to get. And abundance is all the way around in every aspect. And to be witness to that, I just think we have the best job in the world. So, like I said today, when I did a small, video memo to my different doctors, I said, I can't stop smiling because I'm thinking about how January is going to be such a great year to start things off in 2025. So I would say, any of you listening and you want to have next year better than this year, think about what resonated with you, and we'd be more than happy to talk with you and communicate with you. So I think you can do what's called a DM, or direct message. So we'd be happy to take that direct message or that DM and have a further conversation. So thanks for listening. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all three of you be on today's LinkedIn Live. So always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all three for joining us today, and what a plethora of information that you have shared. I know that this is just the tip of the iceberg with what Dr. Martin coaching can provide to physicians and practitioners. But if you are definitely ready to elevate your practice, please go ahead and reach out to Dr. Martin or Renee. They can be found on LinkedIn. Go to their little circle profile picture. Right underneath, you're going to find some contact information. And we'll also be sharing Dr. Connor's contact information as well in our comment section, so you can reach out to her. And if you're in the Southern California area, you know where to find her as well. And like Dr. Martin said, go ahead and reach out to either three of us, Dr. Martin or Renee, for a discovery call inquiry, and we can definitely get you in the right direction for that. And to call and learn more about how coaching might benefit your practice, I definitely feel that you're in the right hands with these three. So again, thank you very much for all of your time for joining us today. It has been a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon. And again, thank you all for just being here and contributing to the expertise and experience that you've shared with us today. We really appreciate it. And for
Thank you,
now, we'll talk
Kevallyn.
to you later.
Bye.
Thank you.